Descent of the Demon God. By Hanjo Wiolia. Chapter 210. Demon God. The Great Demon King. Part 1. Human. The demon god's evil eye exuded vicious energy. It was utterly unacceptable for someone to look down on the great demon king. Especially if that someone was a human. Shoo. The demon king looked at Chen Yuan. A strong feeling of pressure suddenly arose from above, trying to weigh down the human. Master! Grand Duke Kaliaf exclaimed in shock. A massive black hand appeared over Chen Yuan's head, attempting to crush him like an insect. Chen Yuan swiftly grabbed his sword. Whoa! A huge invisible sword with a faint black color appeared above Chen Yuan's head and blocked the enormous black hand that was about to crush him. Pang! A tremendous wind sprang up all around them as the two forces collided. It was more than enough to draw the attention of those fighting around. The Demon King's eyes then shone. He isn't an ordinary human. The ability he displayed wasn't something a human could stop. Even Grand Duke Kaliaf, who was known to be the strongest of the Grand Dukes, was caught by the hand and couldn't move. Are you really a human? The surprised Demon King Tora asked. Before Chen Yuan could even speak, Duke Joseph, whose lower body was shredded, shouted in pain. Tora! This is the Larisha you were afraid of. You will have to come down from that throne you took by breaking the law. Larisha? The Demon King's eyes turned cold as he looked at Chen Yuan's face while unable to decide what to make of Duke Joseph's claim. Then he laughed out loud, believing it was absurd. Do you think that this king cannot recognize Larisha? Duke Joseph tried to refute the Demon King's denial, but something huge appeared beneath him before doing so. Swash! This! Something black, gigantic, and round opened its mouth wide and tried to swallow him. Duke Joseph, whose injuries were so severe and hadn't regenerated yet, was quickly caught and eaten. Chen Yuan used his invisible sword to stop it, but it was already too late. Puck! The sword was stuck inside the sphere. I couldn't even feel it. Chen Yuan's eyes darkened. At that moment, a squeaking sound came from inside the enormous black sphere. Fat! Chen Yuan moved near it and then used the stuck sword to slash it. Slash! This time, it wasn't just the invisible sword, but a black line split the sphere. Pack! The swallowed Duke Joseph was released afterward. As if it was a mouth, he looked like chewed food as his form now looked horrible, and his skin looked so dry like all the moisture he had left was drained. Quack! Duke Joseph! Grand Duke Kaliaf couldn't hide his concern. With this degree of injury, it was dangerous even if his nucleus wasn't damaged. The Demon King approached Chen Yuan. Pa! At that moment, a green-lighted pillar of 50 meters in diameter with a foul odor fell close to Chen Yuan. Poison? The poison and green light were Duke Joseph's ability. Chen Yuan quickly swung his sword. Chuck! The pillar of green light immediately split and fell to the ground. Ugh! You up! A commotion began underneath them. It was okay if they were the only ones there, but there were members of the cult right beneath them and some demons as well. Phew! Chen Yuan stretched out his hand to the bottom, then a black hole appeared, pulling in the parts of the pillar that was falling. Shoo! Pretty good. Suddenly, the Demon King appeared in front of Chen Yuan and pulled his fist at him. At that moment, the space twisted like a whirlwind. Unification of energies? It was similar to Chen Yuan's technique. The Demon King gathered his might into a fist capable of twisting the space and punched Chen Yuan in the chest. Woo! A roaring sound was heard as if an explosion had happened. With that, Chen Yuan bounced off like a ball. He flew almost a few hundred meters. Chen Yuan's crossed wrists were severely trembling as it was the first thing to receive the impact to reduce the damage he could get from the attack. Chen Yuan's eyes turned serious. Slightly above the Grand Duke level, Demon King Tora didn't just randomly wield his fist, he knew how to use his demonic powers perfectly, like how Murim warriors use their chi. It has been a really long time since Chen Yuan's body received some damage. Doo-doo. The sound came from the cracked bones in his wrists being put together. This is because Chen Yuan had tremendous regeneration ability because of the absorbed cores of the spirit beasts and nano pack. Chen Yuan sprinted through the air. SHRR. At that time, the Demon King appeared right before him again. The speed of his movement was enough for him to also be called a wind god. Your name is Larisha? He would feel ashamed if he heard it. The Demon King laughed and tried to kick Chen Yuan. During the kick, the wind around them seemed to gather, and once again, it felt like the unification technique Chen Yuan wields. As the kick was aimed at him, Chen Yuan drew the sword towards the Demon King's leg. Slash! A black line appeared as Chen Yuan's counterattack. The Demon King quickly twisted his body to avoid it, so the black line only appeared behind him, slashing nothing. He avoided it? This was the first time this had happened, a situation where the Supreme Sky Demon Sword art was avoided. The Demon King kicked Chen Yuan on his shoulder without giving him a chance to react. Pang! However, Chen Yuan managed to avoid it, and the pressure from the leg that was used to kick him went above. He then tried to pierce the forehead of the Demon King. Swish! The Demon King struck Chen Yuan's wrist with his other foot. Hack! Slash! With that, he was able to redirect the black line that was aimed at him. Shoo! The Demon King disappeared from there and appeared several meters above the line. Then he pretended to clasp his hands while looking at Chen Yuan. And then... whoa! Huge black hands appeared from left and right as if trying to clap some mosquito. Chen Yuan stretched out his swords using both hands. Tack! After that, the two huge invisible swords arose and stabbed the giant black hands which were trying to crush Chen Yuan. Shoo! Meanwhile, the Demon King appeared from the top and tried to kick Chen Yuan again. You are done. The Demon King stated his notion, deciding it was his victory. Contrary to his belief, there was no reason that Chen Yuan couldn't stop it. What nonsense! Pong! Chen Yuan motioned to kick his enemy with unified energies. The leg he used to attack collided with the Demon King's leg that was also about to hit him. When the two kicks, which were of the same matter, clashed, the clouds in the sky were instantly pushed out. Ha! A smile crept across the Demon King's lips. Thanks to Chen Yuan, who fights on the same level as him, a strong desire for victory replaced the other emotions. The Demon King's hand and feet moved quickly. Papa Pack! Of course, Chen Yuan responded to it. Papa Papa! They hit and blocked the attacks by moving freely in the air and reading the other's attacks. Each time that happened, the clouds would move. Since they were exchanging attacks with the unification technique, it was no less than a fatal blow. Oh my! The human is fighting on an equal footing with the Demon King. The demons who were watching this from below were lost in thoughts. He was the Demon King who was nothing less than a god for them. However, they saw such a god fight with a human who was supposed to be below them and should not have been able to fight on equal footing. What an insane fight. It isn't a human's fight. This was also true for the members of the Sky Demon Order. The battle they are witnessing has an outstanding level of power that couldn't be compared to the battles of the Murim warriors. Each time the two collided, thunder, lightning, and clouds cracked down. Father. Chen Yujing approached Chen Wujing, the Lord. While looking at the sky, he asked, "Is ancestor all right?" Chen Yujing was worried about it, and Chen Wujing couldn't answer him. He firmly believed in their demon god, Chen Yuan, who was a legend in the Sky Demon Order, but the existence from the gate was a monster that humanity had never faced. The confrontation between the two beings was already on another level, to the extent that they thought it was a war between the gods. I am only certain of one thing. The fate of the cult, no, humanity, is at stake here. Humanity. The confrontation in the sky which was happening was like a thunderstorm. It was telling that this destruction wouldn't end with just the Sky Demon Order. Lord Chen Yuan's three subordinates, Hu Bong, Mun Ranyang, and Becky, who were also in the warm below, held their breaths as they looked up at the unfathomable fight. They had absolute faith in Chen Yuan, yet their faces weren't confident as this was a scale of fight they had never experienced. For Lord to fight this fiercely. This wasn't Chen Yuan's usual style. Looking at the fight above, the Demon King and Chen Yuan moved and collided where there was no time to think of a plan or breathe, and the two couldn't even be seen with the naked eye. A single attack would have taken down a mountain if they were on the ground. A slight mistake in the fight. There will always be a difference between winning and losing, and a sight they had never seen before might unfold. It might be the defeat of Chen Yuan, the demon god. It could be dangerous. Hu Bong. Upon hearing that, Hu Bong shouted at Becky's words. What nonsense! Our demon god doesn't lose to a demon king. Ugh! Our lord will win. Hearing Hu Bong's cry, the cult members began to cheer. Demon god! Demon god! Demon god! The cheers, which came one after another, spread throughout the Yongchen group. Cheering boosts morale. At that, even the demons under the Demon King began to shout. Demon King! Demon King! Demon King! A battle between their heads. Their shouts, which were cheers of support, couldn't be heard by those above. Both the ones above couldn't hear the screams as they were focused on their battle. Pong! The two clashed their fists and bounced back. The Demon King's eyes were much sharper than before. Rather than winning, the fight, which constantly extended, was hurting his pride. Looking at Chen Yuan, he said, "You are pretty good for a human. You are the first to fight like this against me other than Larisha and Talisha." Same here. Chen Yuan responded briefly. It was also the first time he had seen something this strong. It had been a long time since he had a fight where he couldn't miss his concentration. But this isn't his full power. The Demon King hadn't awakened yet. It was right for Chen Yuan to kill a monster like this before he used Advanced Awakening, but the opponent could dodge the Supreme Sky Demon Sword art. It is fine. An enemy who can avoid that sword. The world is wide, the Demon King has proved that the single sword which could destroy everything wasn't invincible. Then the Demon King spoke again, to Chen Yuan. I can see why Larisha was obsessed with humans. Good. I'll give you a chance. Chance? An honor for you to become the right arm of the king. At that chance which was presented, Chen Yuan laughed. The words that came out of Grand Duke Kaliaf's mouth were the same. Are you seriously laughing right now? The Demon King's expression went stiff with displeasure. With that, Chen Yuan shook his head and said, You need to be stronger than me to be able to say something like that. The Demon King suddenly laughed at his words. Hwahahaha. The Demon King, who laughed like a crazy man, immediately reached Chen Yuan. Quickly, Chen Yuan used the sword to defend. Then suddenly, a certain energy in Chen Yuan's head had scattered. This? The Demon King smiled at it. Did you think that this king who fought you will be unaware of the power you possess? It is something I passed to the 3 Grand Dukes. One of the scattered abilities was the Advanced Awakening that Chen Yuan absorbed from Ludwig. At the moment when it scattered, Chen Yuan immediately noticed. I can call back my power at any time. If you left that as the trump card, then you are mistaken. And Demon King Tora waved his hand at Chen Yuan, and a shadow opened regardless of Chen Yuan's will. As he pulled something. Swoosh! They were weapons of Arisha. They were the wheel, the staff, and the spear that were kept. Then he continued speaking. You aren't even using the most powerful weapons you have. Human. Cha-cha-cha. As soon as he said that, the wheel, staff, and spear disassembled, turned into armor, and went to the Demon King's body. A strange cry came from the armor that the Demon King wore. Kirk-kirk-kirk-kirk. It was a painful scream. The Demon King looked at Chen Yuan's wrist and leg with dark eyes. He was eyeing at the rest of Arisha's weapons. I don't know how you, a human, got that. However, they are the treasures that only the king, like me, can handle and exert their power. It is only through me. Shoo! As he reached out, Arisha's weapons on Chen Yuan's screamed. Kikiak! Kayak! They were screaming as if they were desperate to escape, and soon enough, they were dismantled. Cha-cha-cha. One turned into a whip, and the other turned into a blade, then quickly flew to the Demon King and turned into a wrist guard and an ankle guard. It wasn't something they could stop. However, the Demon King's expression turned strange. He motioned to pull one thing. Why? A single weapon didn't come back to him. It was the right wrist guard, the sword. Come here. The Demon King tried to pull it again. Whoa! And the black wrist guard changed into a sword. Seeing that, the Demon King smiled. However, chuck! It moved to Chen Yuan's hands as it turned into a sword, not to him. The Demon King couldn't understand it. Why? In his reaction, Chen Yuan looked at the sword in his hand. They called this as Arisha's sword, starting with the Demon King, but it wasn't that for Chen Yuan. Sky Demon Sword. Whoa! At Chen Yuan's call, a clear resonance sounded from the sword. As if it was answering its master's call. Chapter 211. Demon God. The Great Demon King. Part 2. The Sky Demon Sword resonated. Demon King Tora couldn't understand it. All of Arisha's armors were mentally connected to the power of the Demon King and those who inherited the title. Therefore, no matter who it was, others could not bring out the true abilities of the weapons. However, the sword rejected the king's call. Come. He tried to retrieve the sword by increasing his power, but the Sky Demon Sword didn't move from Chen Yuan's hand, causing anger to arise in the Demon King's eyes. You, who are supposed to protect the king, choose your own master. Fine. Then I will kill the master you like so much. Cha-cha-chak. When the Demon King extended his hand, the guard on his ankle turned into a whip. Huh. He then swung it as it extended towards Chen Yuan. In response, the Sky Demon Sword resonated and shook as if asking to be swung. Chen Yuan smiled as he held onto it. You seem to know, Sky Demon Sword. Cha-cha-cha. Chen Yuan wielded the Sky Demon Sword in response to the approaching whip. As Chen Yuan waited for the approaching whip, the Demon King shouted, Arisha's whip is used like this. Weak. When he injected his own demonic power into the whip turned thick and infinitely long, rotating around Chen Yuan like a barrier. Arisha's whip had the ability to seal the opponent and surrounded Chen Yuan slowly, reducing the space around him. Chen Yuan held out the sword. Demon God Sword Art. When he moved the Sky Demon Sword next, he performed the most splendid sword art. Cha-cha-cha. 24 forms of swords interlocked into a complex form as they moved and created a net. This was the third form of Demon God Sword Art. Cha-cha-cha. The sword art created a sharp net like a tornado, repelling the pressure from the tightening whip. The whip, which was trying to trap him, couldn't help but be thrown off as the Demon King extended his other hand. Go and help. Cha-cha-cha. The helmet then disassembled into the wheel and moved at an incredible speed towards the whip. The armor of his lower body also disassembled into 12 daggers. Swoosh! The flying wheel and the 12 daggers were imbued with the Demon King's powers and moved to target Chen Yuan's limbs. Seeing the weapons move, Chen Yuan mumbled, "It's been a while since I went back to the basics." With that, Chen Yuan stretched out his hand into the shadow realm and pulled out something. SRNG. It was a sword with a white blade that made the sharpest sound. The white dragon blade, one of Chen Yuan's 2 great weapons, was revealed. Shoo! As Chen Yuan held the Sky Demon sword in his right hand and the white dragon blade in the left, the cheers from the spectators grew stronger. Woa! It was the cry of the members of the Sky Demon Order. Everyone was enthusiastic when the right and left swords of the rumored legend appeared. Chen Yuan's 3 subordinates, Hu Bang, Mun Ranyang and Becky, were also thrilled at the sight. Lord, show us! Hu Bang exclaimed excitedly. Whoa! Both the swords in Chen Yuan's hands resonated. You must be happy. He thought as he held the 2 swords, which were happy to be back with their counterparts. Chen Yuan smiled, infused the 2 weapons with the Sky Demon energy, and started performing their respective techniques. Cha-cha-cha. In the right was Demon God Sword Art's 4th form, the relentless changing sea, while in the left was the white dragon blade that used 7 slashing blade technique's 7th form. Cha-cha-cha. The strongest sword and blade techniques unfolded at the same time in an unfamiliar way, and the incoming impact and effects could be felt by the Demon King. What is this? The sword and blade created a destructive flow, which wasn't easy to deal with. With a stiff expression, the Demon King moved his hand further to make sure that his 3 Orisha's weapons could pierce through a gap. But cha-cha-cha. There was no gap, because the sword and blade were moving together perfectly. Unexpectedly, the weapons of Arisha were being caught in the weapon's violent movements and thrown out uselessly. Pack. Huh? When the 3 weapons of Arisha were deflected, Demon King Tora couldn't help but feel flustered. During the Third War, these 3 weapons were the combination he used to defeat Talisha's closest aides at the same time. Cha-cha-cha. As techniques unfolded on both sides and 3 of Orisha's weapons thrown away by their synergy, the sword and blade rushed towards the Demon King. With a stiff expression, he shouted, "You seem to know martial arts, but don't push your luck." Whoa! Black light shone from his eyes, and something huge appeared in front of Chen Yuan, who was wielding the sword and blade. It was a gigantic sphere that was about 100 yards tall, much larger than the one that had been used to eat Duke Joseph. Qua! This time, Chen Yuan was the target of the black sphere, causing the members of the Sky Demon Order to hold their breath out of anticipation and anxiety. The demons under the Demon King began to cheer. But right, I knew this would come. Chen Yuan's eyes, which were focused on properly wielding his weapons, were as sharp as ever. At that moment, a change happened in the trajectory of the weapons. JJKKKK. The space, which was touched by the blade and sword, was broken. Space sword. It was the space sword. He wove the space sword into the techniques of the sword and blade on either side to create a space sword that was twice as powerful. Even the Demon King Tora was terrified of the change. You seem to be talented, but your attempt is futile. Enough. The black sphere opened its mouth wider than ever. The space sword, which had become one with the techniques dug into the black sphere, created by the Demon King. Hemp. Everyone then saw the black sphere consume Chen Yuan. Lord. Hu Bang was surprised by the sight, as he thought that Chen Yuan's technique would slice through sphere. However, the sphere ended up devouring him. Ahahaha. There we have it. Did you think that anyone could survive in front of His Majesty Demon King's dimensional creature? Still, he fought well for a human, but the end is the same. The result created an atmosphere full of happiness from the Demon King's army, which was convinced that the Demon King won. However, this happiness didn't last long. JJKKK. The sound of something cracking was heard by everyone, distorting Demon King Tora's expression. Crack. A crack formed in the huge sphere. The demons who watched it were bewildered. It's splitting. JKKK. Light shone from within the crack. The Demon King's face was very telling that something had gone wrong, and he finally let out a scream. Quack. At the same time, black smoke came from his mouth. Crackle. Parts of the black sphere cracked and bounced in all the directions, and the traces of the swords that destroyed it could be seen. Lord. Woa. The members of the Sky Demon Order cheered at once they saw Chen Yuan. Chen Yuan had destroyed the black sphere, but he didn't stop there and moved towards the Demon King while still using the space sword. JJKKKK. The technique moved like a tidal wave as it was imbued with the space blade and tried to sweep away the Demon King, who was coughing out black smoke. You. The Demon King, whose dimensional creature broke, flew back. Not missing the chance, the space sword went after him. Demon King wiped away the soot from the black smoke that was on his lips, revealing a sneaky smile. All right, I acknowledge you. You are worthy of being an enemy of mine. But now, I will show you the true power of the king. Swoosh. Moving back, the Demon King covered his face with both of his hands. Seeing that, Chen Yuan's eyes widened as he kept unfolding the space sword. Advanced awakening? No, this seemed different. The act of covering the face with just one hand and gathering all the demonic power at one point and exploding it out was the essence of the advanced awakening. Then, whoa! At that moment, the space where the Demon King was turned black. But it didn't stop there. In an instant, the entire area was dyed in black. Thanks to that, the space sword suddenly had to confront the black space. Cha-cha-cha. The violent pounding resounded everywhere, as if the two swords were hitting something sturdy like a wall. Oh my! Just what is that? The members of the Sky Demon Order were shocked by the sight. They were stunned as they didn't know what to believe. The black space that the space sword collided with in actuality was not black space. Chen Yuzhang mumbled in a trembling voice. Giant. Everyone looked up, seeing a pitch-black giant large enough to bring night onto the Yongchen site. At first glance, it seemed like a 400-meter-tall black sheet. However, the demonic power that is exuded was suffocating the people of the Sky Demon Order. The space sword couldn't cut through its existence and was blocked. How can that be killed? The giant appearance that people thought only existed in stories was in front of him. Shoo! The demons didn't cheer at the Demon King's changed form, but rather knelt down and bowed to him. It was a courtesy to the king's transformation into his true Demon King form. Shoo! Chen Yuan, who was wielding the space sword, stopped and moved as far away as he could. The Demon King's eyes, which seemed to be pure manifestations of evil, were looking down at him. Human. He uttered a single word that echoed around. Just one word was indescribably electrifying. I will pay a tribute to your strength. This is the third time that I, the king, will show the true form to anyone after Larisha and Talisha. It was hard for him to bear the consequences of using his true form, so he tried not to overuse it. The Demon King. His awakened body that contained all the demonic power of the past Demon Kings. It was no exaggeration to say he had enough power to destroy a planet alone. In front of this king, the power to manipulate the space is nothing. I will now show you the power to rule both heaven and earth. Grr. Bang. Dark clouds gathered in the sky as if heaven and earth responded to his call. Darkness was everywhere, thunder and lightning raged across, and hurricane winds blew in every direction. Tremble! The earth shook like an earthquake, and everyone on the ground could feel the change of heaven and earth and were filled with fear. Is this really? Cho Yun, the commander, fell to the ground. Despite being soldiers, the officers' rest of the army were humans and thus lost all hope. The end. The sound of completely giving up came from the golden Gumiho's mouth. She was someone who believed in heaven and earth, but the scene she was witnessing made it impossible for her to have any remaining hope. This is the realm of gods. It wasn't something a human or yokai beast could handle. She thought that even if the first Chunma was revived, he wouldn't triumph against the Demon King. Human, it was interesting. Now I will erase you and those beneath you from the world. Cuckoo cuckoo. The giant Demon King slowly moved his hand towards Chen Yuan, but as he looked down at Chen Yuan's form, it suddenly disappeared and appeared in front of his face. Spatial movement? In my hand I will. Demon King. Chen Yuan cut off his words and called him. The Demon King looked at Chen Yuan, who was smaller than a bug to him, with puzzled eyes as Chen Yuan smiled and asked. The power to rule heaven and earth, was it? Then, I should show you. What do you mean? He narrowed his eyes and looked at a smiling Chen Yuan, who raised his hand up. This is the void that moves even the principles of the universe. Universe? Whoa! That was when a huge change occurred in the sky, which turned dark. Everyone who watched the phenomenon from the ground had their mouths wide open out of shock. Look there. The sky is splitting open. The sky was splitting even higher than where the giant Demon King was. In the cracked sky was not blue, but rather the universe of countless stars. The universe? Are we looking at the universe? Everyone was confused. Even the giant Demon King's eyes trembled at the appearance of the universe. What the hell? This wasn't really the universe, but rather the chaos itself that was created when heaven and earth were split. Chen Yuan clenched his teeth and with his hands in the air, as if pulling the universe with all his might. Crack! Goo! The universe, which was filled with starlight, began to shake. What are you trying to do? Look, that is my power. As soon as Chen Yuan finished speaking, all stars began simultaneously move in the shaking and trembling universe. Chapter 212. Demon God. The Great Demon King. Part 3.
Nanosuit. Gadolinium nanosuit. A black tight-fit suit made out of gadolinium that looks like armor with no gaps.
There. Look over there. The stars are shaking. The universe was revealed in the open sky. Stars seemed to fall from the sky at any moment in the fast-moving universe. Those who watched it from the ground were shocked. Of course, humans weren't the only ones astounded by the unbelievable sight. Does that make sense? How can this happen? Even the demons who were bowing to the Demon King were now confused. The appearance of the starlight, which seemed to burst, wasn't some scenic sight. There were meteors in it. Really? They are falling. It was true. The stars grew huge and started falling, turning the scene into a meteor shower, the sight of meteors falling right in front of their eyes. It turned the lightning, thunder, and hurricane into nothing. This is crazy. Is he going to blow up the planet? Everyone avoid it. They considered the power of the Demon King a wonder. However, even the demons were experiencing fear for the first time when they looked at the meteor shower continuously pouring down from space. You bastards! This is the true strength of my lord. Hu Bong suddenly felt happy as he shouted at the demons. Suddenly, holding his shoulder, Mun Ranyong spoke in a worried voice. Bong Bong, shouldn't we avoid it? Honestly, why are you saying say that after looking up. Up? Up. Oh. Swoosh. The sight of the meteor shower in the cracked sky seemed like it could destroy everything. The meteors kept coming closer, bigger, and more dangerous. The demons didn't just feel the pressure, but even those of Earth. This man is. The eyes of the demon king, who was still in his giant form, shook. At this force, it seemed like the demon-like human didn't mind destroying the entire Earth along with him. A sacrifice? Otherwise, one wouldn't do such a thing. You are truly crazy, human. The Demon King could no longer stand what he was seeing. He didn't expect things would turn out like this. He then moved his gigantic body. Doo-oo. As if holding the sky, the Demon King stretched out his hand towards the place where the meteors moved. In the place where he reached out, black discs appeared orderly and formed into a shield. Coming. Everyone avoid it. Everyone moved away, from demons to Sky Demon Order members. Large chunks of light were dropping from the sky. Swoosh. Pang. Pang. When the chunks of light collided with the black disk, they shattered, splattering their bits all over the place. As a result, they tumbled to the ground, surrounded by flames. Bang. Bang. Maybe it was luck? The fragments all fell outside the Yongchun group. Papa Pang. It was an unusual sight. It appeared as though Chen Yuan was trying to destroy the world, and the Demon King was urgently attempting to stop him, given how frequently he made the black discs. However, the falling meteors or chunks of light always pierced his defenses. Quang. One of those huge meteors slammed into the shoulder of the Demon King. Quack. His giant body swayed from one side to another. Grand Duke Kaliaf, who had escaped the black hand that had captured him earlier, moved Duke Joseph and gazed at the Demon King, who stood hundreds of meters tall. Is it really Larisha's advent? The Demon King's existences. It was a power possessed only by the Demon King. If it was in that state, the head of the Talisha clan had to come to take him down. But then, an unbelievable thing happened. The Demon King, who was the strongest, was shaken after being hit once. What is this? It was absurd that the Demon King was hurt. The descending meteors, obscured by the barriers created, were now going towards the spaces between the defenses. How can he handle the meteors so freely? Even the Demon King couldn't pull it off. The more objects there are around, the less control one has over the minor aspects. Quang. Quack. Was it because he was careless? Another meteor struck the Demon King's chest. The gigantic Demon King was pushed backward. It was an incredibly destructive force that the Demon King could only sustain. Quang. Quang. Afterward, another 3 meteors passed through the barrier. 2 of them flew outside the sight of Yongchun, and the other one. Shit. Move. It was dropping exactly where the demons were swarming. Quack quack quang. Quack. Ack. PSSS. The power of the stars, or whatever it was beyond comprehension. Around 80 demons within a 100-meter radius were reduced to ashes the instant they reached the ground. It was a sight the Demon King couldn't believe. This bastard. He's controlling this meteor shower in detail. This was something the Demon King was sure of. White particles were rapidly moving in Chen Yuan's eyes. It was augmented reality. Panel system operation rate 170%. 68% of the user's body is being burdened. It was the 7th gen nanomachine that had this computing power. That helped relieve the burden on Chen Yuan, who was using the sutras. It made the attack more detailed and precise so as to not hurt others. Swoosh. Quang. Another starlight struck the Demon King's chest. The great thing was that, despite their strength, the meteors were unable to pierce the Demon King's body. "He's aiming for my chest." Despite the pain, the Demon King narrowed his eyes. Chen Yuan guessed that the nucleus had to be in the chest, no matter how the body changed. However, even after attacking twice in a row, the Demon King endured it fine. "It's not in the chest." He had to get rid of the nucleus first. "Is he really human?" The Demon King's eyes, which had been searching for a way to protect himself, had suddenly become serious. No matter how strong the dimensional barrier he creates, it is bound to fall once the meteor hits. In the end, only the defending one is at a disadvantage. Seriously. He didn't think it would be this dangerous. "Is this it?" Chen Yuan focused on the head of the Demon King. Then, 3 starlights simultaneously appeared aiming at the Demon King's head. Swoosh! The Demon King's eyes turned strange, looking at them flying straight for his head at a frightening speed. Something flashed through his mind. "Tora, you have an innate sense of battle, but your views are too traditional. An increase in bulk and volume indicates that your body is being exposed to a greater degree. Even so, if the power grows, the opponent will be knocked out instantly, that is if the enemy is weaker than you. Then what will be excellent? Larisha, consider your options thoroughly. Once this happens, you will have exceeded your existing restrictions." Why was he thinking of the past? The Demon King stared at the 3 starlights approaching. Has he given up? Chen Yuan was puzzled by the Demon King's actions. This time, 3 meteors were heading for the head, so he would be harmed even if he was gigantic and powerful. It was then. Bang! Black space appeared in front, covering him like a wall. How could the hundreds of meters high body of the Demon King suddenly perform such a feat? Quang! At that moment, the meteors hit the Demon King one after another. With a tremendous roar, the space distorted, and wind pressure rose. Swoosh! In accordance, the body of the Demon King began to shrink. Hit it right. Chen Yuan looked at the aftermath of the explosion. It was a meteor shower caused by Chen Yuan, who realized the principles of the cosmos and opened up a region of chaos, gathered chaotic energy into it, and dropped it. In a way, it was nothing more than a microcosm. Bang! The flaming lights of the meteors suddenly disappeared, and someone was floating in the middle. It was the Demon King Tora. His appearance had just reduced to the form of a human but retained the blackness around. It was only the mass that had reduced. The Demon King seemed to contemplate something as he raised his palm and looked at it. A demonic power he had never felt before was gushing out. Can it be this helpful to have concentrated all the power of the Demon King's existences in one point and exploded at once? He thought that Demon King's existences were the end, but he was wrong. Now he felt afraid of his power. Clench! Demon King Tora clenched his fist and looked at Chen Yuan. Human. I owe you a great debt of gratitude. Shoo! He reached up and blocked a single meteor flying towards him. The meteor blocked by the palm flashed as if it was burned and faded away. It was as if he was trying out his new strength and showing it off simultaneously. Looking at Chen Yuan with arrogant eyes, he said, "Thanks to you, I was able to change my thinking." Change your thinking? Now, it's not only Larisha, whoever comes won't be able to become my opponent. After his confident declaration of power, Demon King Tora shook himself to remove something from his body, and it was the weapons, Arisha's armor, that he was wearing. Everyone thought he would be up to something, but he dropped them to the ground. Swoosh! These things are meaningless to me now. He was no longer obsessed with Arisha's armor. Unless he had all 7, he couldn't show his true value before, but now, he was sure that no one could harm him even without them. You're far too sure of yourself. At Chen Yuan's words, the Demon King laughed. Fufufu, I am warning you. 5 seconds from now, your human neck will be in my hands and... Not letting his enemy finish his speech, Chen Yuan held out his hand to the Demon King and pushed his palm to the right. Woo! The Demon King was puzzled. He couldn't understand what the other was doing. What are you doing? The Supreme Demon Sword and the Void Sutra are combined into one. What? It is fine if you want to change your mind. A sudden chill was felt. The Demon King couldn't understand Chen Yuan's words, but he had an ominous feeling. Assuming he was on his way to victory, the Demon King attempted to go ahead and strike, but he couldn't feel his body. Just what? Demon King Tora lowered his head at the weird sensation. The lower part of his chest had vanished. The part was neatly cut, and it was as if his black body had disappeared along with it. This is absurd. He felt nothing. His body and the space around it were taken away. Crack! And as if replacing the lost part, it was slowly beginning to be filled. I need to recover my body before it completes. He tried to restore his body, but it didn't work. He had the power to instantly restore his body. However, it was as if his body was still there, but his existence had vanished. HHH. Then Chen Yuan appeared in front of him. Grab! Chen Yuan grabbed the Demon King's head. He couldn't do anything to escape it because the lower part had disappeared, leaving just his chest, neck, and shoulders. The Demon King, feeling a sense of crisis, shouted. Wait! Human! This isn't right. I cannot accept a defeat like this. Such a fraudulent ability. Crack! Quack! Chen Yuan's palm sank into the chest before he could finish, and even if he was the Demon King, he couldn't do anything once the nucleus was touched. Chen Yuan then said to him, Put the nonsense aside, you are now in my hands, Demon King.